d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. As a member of Parliament for Saint-Boniface-Saint-Vital and as a minister, I'm very pleased to be here to start off this important announcement. I want to begin by acknowledging that I'm joining you from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Joining us today, we have Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, Karina Gould, Manitoba Premier Heather Stefanson, Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning, Wayne Ewasko, the Rodriguez Palacios family, and the Manitoba Child Care Association Executive Director, Jody Keel. Our priority as a government is making life more affordable for Canadians. And today we are taking a very important step for families in Manitoba. Today's announcement will have positive and long-lasting impacts for families in Winnipeg and across Manitoba. I'd like to thank the Rodriguez Palacios family for joining us here today. I'd now like to turn it over to them to introduce themselves, and I understand the Prime Minister and the Premier have a couple of questions for them. Over to you.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Jonathan Rodriguez, and this is my family, Andrea Palacios, and my twins. This is Sebastian, and he's Dan.
Well, listen, it's great to see you. I know twins can be a bit of a challenge, but it's wonderful. How was it to try and find childcare, and how important was it that you be able to get them into childcare?
Was a challenge for us because we are newcomers here in Canada. We arrived 2 years ago, and we did research in internet how to apply for the daycare, but we have to wait a lot of time to get a spot, and was more difficult because there were 2 babies. And in many places told us that they have just one spot for one of them, but the idea is that they are together in the daycare. Finally, we found a good daycare close to home, and we are so happy because the guys has the opportunity to meet new friends and know the Canadian culture.
Premier, do you have a question?
Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Just good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Andrea and Jonathan, for being with us today, along with Daniel and Sebastian. It's just great to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about what today's announcement means to you and how it helps you and your family?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Sorry. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This program means a lot in the budget of our family. We were blessed with twins boys. However, this also means double expenses for us. So now every dollar that we can save help us with our future family projects. Also, it's a great news for us because currently my husband is working, but I is still looking for a job. This program help us a lot because we can now afford the daycare cost. Is so good for us.
It's a blessing for us.
It's a blessing for us, yes.
That's great.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Andrea and Jonathan. It was very nice to meet you today. And I'm now very pleased to welcome the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Merci beaucoup, Dan. Je suis très content d'être ici avec toi et avec la ministre Gould aussi. It's great to see Premier Stefanson and Minister Ewasko. Happy to be joined as well by Jody Keel, the Executive Director for the Manitoba Child Care Associations. And especially thank you to Andrea and Jonathan for joining us today. I mean, this announcement is all about making sure that life is more affordable for families, that kids have the best start in life, and that you have the choices. And what you said, Andrea, about being able to look for work and know that the kids are in a good place while you can engage in contributing to your family and to your community is incredibly important. So you know how important high quality child care is, and we're glad to be making this announcement today. Last summer, we signed a historic deal with Manitoba. We laid out a plan to cut fees in half by the end of this year, and for $10 a day childcare by March of 2023. Well, today, we can announce that thousands of families will be saving money on childcare earlier than planned. Manitoba will now expand its Child Care Subsidy Program, and up to 12,000 additional children will receive support, particularly those in low and middle income families. With this expansion, nearly half of regulated spaces in the province will now be subsidized. Families that apply and qualify to subsidy programs should see their fees cut by as much as 50%. And we're still on track to cut average fees in half for Manitoba families by the end of this year. Ces réductions vont faire une vraie différence pour les familles, vont aider les familles et les parents à joindre les deux bouts. Les familles comme celle d'Andrea et Jonathan, ça veut dire plus d'argent dans les poches pour l'épicerie, pour les activités familiales. We know that costs are significant around the country because of this pandemic. That's where this boost will help them with everything from groceries to gas to what they need to get through winter at a time that is really challenging. But it's not just families in Manitoba that are benefiting from this. Families are already beginning to see savings in other places too, in Nova Scotia, in PEI, in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, and we're really glad to know that families like yours are going to be able to benefit as well in Manitoba. This is real positive change for families and the economy, and we're going to continue working with provinces and territories and Indigenous partners to make sure kids have the best possible start in life and to make sure our economy comes back in an inclusive way that gives everyone an opportunity to succeed, specifically moms in this. Alors, je suis très content d'être ici et très content maintenant de passer la parole à la Première ministre Stefanson, qui a été une grande partenaire dans ce processus. Heather.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and welcome to Manitoba, albeit virtually, but it's great to have you here, and we look forward to getting together with you in person as soon as it's safe to do so. So good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today with all of you making what is, I think, a significant announcement for women, for families, and to ensure we are funding a system that is sustainable now and into the future. Over the past 2 years, we have all seen the devastating impact of COVID-19 and what it's had on employment, on our economy, and it has been particularly hard on working women. As we have seen over the course of the pandemic, access to childcare is absolutely vital to ensuring women and families can continue to work and provide critical services to Manitobans. And as we look toward the post-pandemic future, access to childcare continues to be a key element to rebuilding our economy. Our government, along with the federal government, is committed to ensuring working women and families have the supports they need to return to employment, attend training programs, and return to the classroom. No matter what path people choose, all of these choices need access to affordable childcare if we are going to rebuild our economy. Today is the first initiative under Manitoba's 2-year action plan to address the issue of affordability, which will reduce parent fees by up to 30% and triple the number of subsidized spaces in Manitoba. It also ensures parents will pay, on average, out-of-pocket fee of $10 per day by the end of 2023. Today's announcement of the increase to the current subsidy thresholds is the first step towards achieving these targets. We know that a parent's ability to participate in the workforce may be dependent upon access to affordable childcare, and today's announcement will allow more Manitoba families to participate in the labor market and maintain employment, while knowing their children are receiving safe and nurturing care. Manitoba's updated income threshold for childcare subsidies ensures parents pay what they can afford based upon their net household income. Over the course of the next 2 years, with support from the Government of Canada and continuous consultation with early childhood educators, I know we can build a community-based system of quality, affordable, and inclusive early learning and childcare programs and services for Manitoba families. I'll now turn it over to the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, the Honourable Karina Gould. Over to you, Minister. Thank you for joining us today, virtually in Manitoba.
Thank you so much, Premier Stefanson. I am glad to be joining you virtually, although of course I would prefer to be there in person, but I am joining you today from my riding in Burlington, Ontario. Burlington is rich in history and the modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Haudenosaunee and the Métis, the lands spanning from Lake Ontario to the Niagara Escarpment are steeped in Indigenous history. The territory is mutually covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and other allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This land is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today's announcement is great news for Manitoba families. We've just heard from Andrea and Jonathan just what this means for them. And I want to acknowledge Premier Stefanson and Minister Ewasko for moving forward on the path of accessible and affordable, high-quality childcare in Manitoba. For the Prime Minister, Minister Vandal, myself, and our whole government, we know that access to high-quality, affordable, flexible, and inclusive childcare is not a luxury, it's a necessity. That's why our commitment to building a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system matters more than ever. Il y a 6 mois, nous avons conclu l'accord Canada-Manitoba sur l'apprentissage et la garde des jeunes enfants à l'échelle du Canada, qui prévoit plus de 1,2 milliard de dollars en fonds fédéraux sur 5 ans. Depuis, les 2 gouvernements ont travaillé en collaboration pour atteindre l'objectif de réduction des coûts pour une place en service de garde réglementé au Manitoba à une moyenne de 10 dollars par jour au 2023. Today's announcement is a meaningful first step to lowering parent fees in Manitoba and will make a real difference for families across the province. Expanding the Child Care Subsidy Program will greatly improve access to affordable early learning and childcare for approximately 12,000 more children, particularly from low and middle income families, including 8,000 children aged 6 and under. As a result, more Manitoba parents will be able to participate in the labor market and maintain employment, especially as our economy recovers from the effects of the pandemic. Grâce à ces changements, le Manitoba est sur la bonne voie pour réduire les frais pour les parents, peu importe où habite la famille dans la province. I look forward to even more progress, especially on creating more childcare spaces and establishing a wage grid to attract and retain early childhood educators. And let me take a moment to acknowledge our incredible ECEs. As a mom of a child in daycare myself, I know how much as parents we rely on you to take care of our most precious resource, our children. I know the pandemic has asked a lot of everyone, but particularly our ECEs, who have done everything they can to keep our kids safe and cared for in these difficult times. So thank you to our incredible ECEs for all that you do every day. Alors que nous soulignons ce jalon important, il faut se rappeler que les progrès du système pan-canadien d'apprentissage et de garde des jeunes enfants aideront à stimuler la croissance économique et la participation des femmes à la population active, en plus d'offrir à chaque enfant le meilleur départ possible dans la vie. I would like to profoundly thank everyone involved in today's announcement, including the federal and provincial officials who worked tirelessly to make this announcement happen. And thank you to the childcare advocates and champions in Manitoba for helping us get to this historic agreement in your province and across the country. On that note, I'll turn it over to Minister Ewasko to say a few words. Minister, congratulations on the new role. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Minister Gould. And I would at first like to acknowledge that we here in Manitoba are on treaties 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lands, which are the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and of course the homeland of the Métis Nation. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with our federal and provincial partners to make this incredible announcement that will reduce out-of-pocket expenses and fees for so many Manitoba families. I also want to acknowledge our provincial partners from the Manitoba Child Care Association. Thank you to President Karen Laflèche for your ongoing collaboration with our government, and of course, the fantastic Executive Director, Jody Kale, for joining us virtually here today. Today, we are expanding our eligibility to our Child Care Subsidy Program, which has not been re-indexed since 2012. This has resulted in fewer families receiving child care subsidies, as the income thresholds did keep pace with minimum wage adjustments to reflect increased cost of living. With this change in eligibility, it is estimated that an additional 12,000 children will receive support to access regulated childcare, particularly in low and middle income families. This means that we are tripling the number of children currently supported in regulated childcare. With the support of the federal government, we are able to provide substantially more families with assistance during and ensuring that low and middle income Manitobans have access to childcare to advance their ability to participate and maintain employment. The Child Care Subsidy income threshold is increasing by 45%, from an average household income of $23,000 to just over $37,000 for a full subsidy, or from $37,000 to just under $83,000 for a partial subsidy. This change in income threshold will result in nearly half of regulated spaces being subsidized and will reduce out-of-pocket parent fees by 30%. Today's announcement aligns with key priorities to support Manitoba's early learning and childcare transformation strategy. This strategy balances affordable childcare fees with financial assistance providers through a modernized, equitable funding approach. Before I conclude, I would like to acknowledge the hardworking and dedicated staff in our early learning and childcare sector. They're valuable in ensuring our children are cared for, so parents can participate in the workforce or attend training and education programs. To further invest, strengthen, and stabilize our early childhood educator workforce, we are finalizing the new workforce addendum in partnership with the federal government. This will offer a one-time investment to initiate longer-term planning and supports for the workforce, and we look forward to making that announcement soon. As the new Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning, I look forward to connecting directly with early childhood educators, teachers, school staff, and administration as we move forward with the alignment of our child care and education sectors. Thank you, and I will now turn it back over to Minister of Northern Affairs, Minister responsible of Prairies Economic Development Canada, and Minister responsible for the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, the Honourable Dan Vandal.
Thank you so much, Minister Ewasko, and merci, Premier Ministre Trudeau, Ministre Gould, Premier Ministre Stefanson. Les nouvelles aujourd'hui, c'est des excellentes nouvelles pour les familles à Winnipeg et au Manitoba. Thank you to the Rodriguez Palacios family for joining us today to share your important story, and to Jody Keel for being a tireless advocate for childcare here in Manitoba. This now concludes this formal announcement, and I'll turn it over to the moderated media availability. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Good morning, bon matin. We have 20 minutes for questions with the Prime Minister and Premier Stefanson. We'll start with questions in the room for 10 minutes and then go to reporters on Zoom for 10. We'll have an additional 10 minutes following that for questions with ministers, 5 minutes in the room, 5 minutes for Zoom. Reporters will have one question and one follow-up. Nous avons 20 minutes pour les questions au Premier ministre et Trudeau et au Premier ministre Stefanson. Nous commencerons avec des questions dans la salle pour 10 minutes, puis nous passerons aux journalistes sur Zoom pendant 10 minutes. Nous aurons ensuite 10 minutes supplémentaires pour des questions au ministre, 5 minutes dans la salle, 5 minutes pour Zoom. Ça serait une question et un suivi. I will now pass it to the room to begin questions. Je vais passer à la salle pour commencer les questions.
12,000 additional children will be subsidized here. The goal is obviously to get to that sort of $10 a day daycare. How much is this going to, or I guess, how much is this going to cost these families?
Sure. Thanks, Ian, for the question. And moving forward, we're talking about this program that's going to be over the next 2 years, and then as we're working with our stakeholders, and this is a joint program with the federal government in regards to working towards that $10 a day daycare. As you already know, across the country, our daycare fees are very, very affordable already, but at the same time, with the help of the federal government, we're definitely moving to that $10 a day daycare per child.
How much will it cost once it's subsidized for these families?
Overall, are you meaning as far as total from the provincial side or federal side, or per family?
How much are families going to pay once for these 12,000 additional families? How much are they going to pay?
So they're going to a little bit more of the fine details, I guess. I can get back to you on, but it could be as low as $2, which is the absolute, I guess, the initial fee, and could be higher than that depending on where they fall in the subsidy categories.
How was the determination made for the threshold eligibility for the two numbers there based on household income? How did you determine those being the windows of household income that would be able to apply for this?
So I think under the last few months, working with the federal government and also with the Department of Families, which is now synergized under the new Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning, they came up with the figures, and I believe that they've worked with the Department of Finance as well to see where those numbers would line up.
For the Premier or the Prime Minister, just this announcement we're making today, where we're at, do you think we would be here on our movement towards $10 a day childcare if it wasn't for the pressures being put on the system, parents, the economy from the pandemic?
Well, I think one thing certainly the pandemic has maybe brought this to the forefront, and how important. I mean, we've always known how important the childcare sector is, but I think just knowing and the incredible work that they did, during the pandemic has just been amazing. And I know we've worked closely with Jody and others in the industry as well, and just how important that is. And so, yeah, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to work together with the federal government, and I think this is great for Manitoba families. Prime Minister?
Yeah, no, thank you, Premier. To build on that, there have been many people who've long known how important childcare is, both to give kids the best start in life, to support families with affordable costs and a good quality of living, but also to support the economy. And a lot of extraordinarily strong advocates and activists have been working for many years to improve childcare. And quite frankly, Manitoba has already shown itself to be a leader among different provinces on affordable childcare. But this pandemic really woke everyone up in the business community, across the political spectrum, to say, wow, we need to make sure we have affordable, high-quality childcare. And it was really the impetus that allowed us to put forward a historic investment in the last budget, and to work so directly with so many provinces. Manitoba was among the first to move forward to really bring costs down for Canadians. And quite frankly, at a time where we know the costs are going up for families in so many areas, saving hundreds of dollars a month, thousands of dollars a year on childcare costs can only make a huge difference for families right across the country, and include right here in Manitoba.
Premier, can you please talk about how you're going to how the subsidized spaces are going to be staffed? What's the plan for making sure there are enough people with training, ECEs who can do the work? I know a lot of them, the pay isn't great, and a lot of them are leaving. Like they're going to other jobs as TAs in the school system. So how are we going to find the people to work at these high quality early learning centers.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Carol, and I'll maybe pass it over to Minister Ewasko, but I know that this is the first of a few announcements that will be made over the course of the next little while. I hate to say stay tuned, Carol, because I know you don't like when I say that. But we do have some great opportunities, I think, moving forward. Mr. Ewasko, do you want to add on to that,
Absolutely, and Carol, thanks for that question, because I think that's definitely on many people's minds, and as the Prime Minister mentioned in regards to, as we're moving out of this pandemic and how tough it's been on families over the last couple of years dealing with COVID, and then, trying to get the, more affordable daycare. And again, as the Prime Minister mentioned, Manitoba has been a leader in the country as far as affordable daycare spaces already. And with this is just going to help even more to put, to relieve some of those financial pressures. But Carol, to answer your question, as the Premier mentioned, there is more good news coming, so definitely stay tuned. But in addition to that, we are making sure that we're working with the sector, and I'm thrilled that Jody Kale has joined us here today as well. But we're looking at basically the affordability, the quality, and of course the workforce. And so within the next few months, we're going to get some additional good news for the sector, so that we can definitely try to train and retain the individuals that we need to be working with our, as I think Minister Gould said, our most precious resource, our kids here in the province of Manitoba.
And as a follow-up, there was a pretty specific announcement about a pay top-up for, I think it was EC2s. I'm not sure. Is that still going ahead, and or has that changed?
So Carol, again, definitely working with the sector, and just showing again that our government has been a very listening and collaborative government, and especially under Premier Stefanson moving forward. We're working with the childcare sector, and that good news is potentially coming shortly.
Is this supposed to kick in today, or when is it starting, I suppose?
I think the Prime Minister, I think, wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just saying, it was a core piece of the agreements we signed across the country. Yes, bringing the price down to $10 a day. Yes, creating new spaces for families that need them, but also specifically investing in early childhood educators, because we know they are core and key to having a quality system that is doing right by families. And I know Manitoba has been working hard on that, and we support them fully in moving forward and in whatever future announcements they're able to make.
Last question in the room here.
Yeah, my question is, when is this supposed to start, and I guess how long do families have to apply for this?
Great. So if I may, Premier, so February 6th, and probably roughly about 40 minutes ago, some of the information went live on the website. And so if anybody's got a pen, jotting this down, the website is www.gov.mb.ca/FS/Childcare. And that will also be moving into an education and early childhood learning website in the near future. But thanks for that.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, I'm good.
We can go to Zoom.
Thank you. We will start with questions from Zoom. Nous allons commencer avec la première question par Zoom. Marika Walsh, Globe and Mail.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Turning to the protests in Ottawa, would you ever consider sending the army in to end the protests? Is that an option that you think is viable?
Our focus is on being there to support the police of jurisdiction, support the City of Ottawa and the Government of Ontario. We will, of course, look at any formal requests they sent us, but in our preoccupation remains being there for the citizens of Ottawa, the neighborhoods that have been significantly disrupted by these protests and by these protesters, people going to school, people going to work, small business owners being harassed for wearing masks, being faced with hateful rhetoric. As a federal government, the RCMP has been there to provide support to the police of jurisdiction, the Ottawa Police. And of course, we will be there to respond to any formal requests from either the city or the province.
I'm left unclear in understanding whether you think the military, though, is an option. Are you saying that you would be, or you are entertaining, or could be the next Prime Minister Trudeau to deploy the military within Canada for such a demonstration?
There were questions a couple of years ago around military when it came to other protests that were blocking critical infrastructures. My answer then is consistent with my answer now, that one has to be very, very cautious before deploying military in situations engaging Canadians. It is not something that anyone should enter in lightly. But as of now, there have been no requests, and that is not in the cards right now.
Prochaine question, Mélanie Marquis, La Presse. Melanie, you might be on mute. OK. On va aller à...
Excuse-moi, j'ai eu une notification qui a malencontreusement bloqué mon accès à l'écran. Ma question, donc, M. Trudeau, je m'excuse pour le petit pépin technique. Sur le même sujet que Marika, il y a à peu près, quand il y avait les blocus ferroviaires, vous disiez que un gouvernement n'envoie pas l'armée contre sa propre population. Est-ce que la même logique s'applique dans le cas des manifestants qui sont à Ottawa?
Effectivement, mais les principes que j'ai partagés il y a 2 ans continuent d'être des principes importants. Nous savons que les forces policières, que ce soit la police d'Ottawa ou la GRC qui a des ressources aussi, est là pour régler la situation et nous allons être, en tant que gouvernement fédéral, prêts à répondre aux demandes, mais pour l'instant, c'est pas quelque chose qu'on est en train de regarder, d'envoyer les forces armées contre des citoyens canadiens.
Mais comment donc, M. Trudeau, allez-vous contribuer à régler ce qui semble une impasse? On est rendu quand même au jour 7 de l'occupation. Pourquoi est-ce que, je ne sais pas, vous ne faites pas une rencontre au sommet avec les organisateurs? Quel rôle pouvez-vous jouer afin de dénouer l'impasse?
Ben, tout d'abord, on est en communication régulière avec le bureau du maire d'Ottawa. Nous sommes en train d'assurer que la GRC est là pour offrir des appuis s'ils sont nécessaires pour la police d'Ottawa. Je l'ai dit clairement il y a plusieurs jours qu'il est temps que les manifestants rentrent chez eux. C'est en train de venir déranger et harceler les citoyens d'Ottawa dans leur communauté, des gens qui veulent juste aller au travail, les gens qui vivent leur vie, qui entendent des manifestants, des klaxons, qui subissent de menaces de violence et des propos et des symboles haineux. C'est inacceptable. Il est temps que ces gens rentrent et en tant que gouvernement, nous allons être là pour répondre à des demandes formelles ou bien de la Ville d'Ottawa ou bien de la province s'ils ont besoin de plus de ressources. Mais nous savons que les forces policières doivent faire leur job pour régler cette situation.
Next question, Ryan Tumulty, National Post.
Yeah, good morning, sir. I'm wondering, with the scale of the protest, and I know you're in isolation for COVID right now, but with the scale of the protest and the way it is blocking the parliamentary precinct, are you confident that if you wanted to, you could get to the House of Commons safely?
To be honest, Ryan, I'm much more concerned about the citizens of Ottawa, who are increasingly being very vocal about the fact that this needs to stop. We've seen seniors step forward. We've seen young families being very, very vocal about the fact that this is absolutely unacceptable. This is protesting people going about their daily lives, harassing people who dare wear masks or follow public health rules, expressing hateful approaches, showing hateful symbols of genocide, of racism. These are things that are absolutely unacceptable, and the people of Ottawa deserve to have their lives back, deserve to have their neighborhoods back. As a federal government, there are constitutional requirements on how we intervene in local jurisdictions, and that's why we are there to provide support as necessary with the RCMP, with intelligence services. We know that the people of Ottawa deserve to have their lives back, and this is a time for responsible leadership as well, for all politicians from all parties to tell these protesters, as I have, that it's time to get back to normal in the city of Ottawa, that people of Ottawa who are just trying to live their lives and who are suffering through this pandemic like everyone is across this country, it's time to give them their neighborhoods back.
The protest groups have called for a sit down with your government. They've called for negotiations. They've obviously called for an end to mandates. Is there any scenario in which you'd be willing to negotiate with these protesters to have them leave?
We will remain steadfast to the mandate given to parliamentarians 6 months ago in the last election. You will remember that there were very, very clear differences of opinion around mandatory vaccination, around vaccine mandates put forward in that election, and they were heavily debated and indeed protested by some of the main people who are protesting right now in Ottawa. And the commitment that we made as a government, if we got reelected, is we would stand by science. We would continue to do what it takes to protect people through this pandemic. Vaccinated, that federal public servants be fully vaccinated, move forward with vaccine mandates in federally regulated areas. That is the promise we made to Canadians. That is the decision Canadians took in the last election by voting for parties that were supporting those mandates. So having a group of people who disagree with the outcome of an election, who want to go a different way and bring in an alternative government, is a non-starter in a responsible democracy. That is why we are continuing to fulfill the responsibility that the Canadians gave us in this last election, and quite frankly, continue to stand by the almost 90% of truckers who are vaccinated, stand by the millions upon millions of Canadians who just want to get their lives back and who know that getting back to the things we love requires vaccinations.
We have time for one last question from Zoom for the Prime Minister and Premier. Nous avons le temps pour une autre question pour le Premier ministre Trudeau et Première ministre Stefanson. Mario De Ciccio, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Merci beaucoup. My question will be for Premier Stefanson. What do you think of the appointment of Candice Bergen as interim leader of the Conservative Party? Some of her comments were criticized earlier this week when she compared the presence of Nazi flags in the truck convoy to the removal of Queen Victoria's statue. What do you think of this?
So what the federal Conservative Party is what's happening with that is their business. Certainly in Manitoba, we have a number of things that are on the forefront of what we're focusing on when it comes to COVID and when it comes to, healthcare, when it comes to getting our economy back up and running. Those are the things that we're focusing on. Obviously, when it comes to, people who are, waving around Nazi flags and this kind of thing, we have no time for that at all. I've said that. I don't have any time for violent behavior. Wherever it is, and we don't condone that kind of behavior. So.
Et peut-être un follow-up pour M. Trudeau. Qu'est-ce qu'on pense? Un peu la même question, dans le fond, de l'appointement de Candice Bergen et les commentaires qu'elle a fait plus tôt cette semaine.
Certainement que j'ai l'intention de parler avec la chef par intérimaire du Parti conservateur pour la féliciter de ses responsabilités, mais aussi pour souligner que les Canadiens s'attendent à ce qu'on travaille ensemble pour les aider à traverser cette pandémie, à reprendre l'économie. Et je sais qu'ils s'attendent à ce que les parlementaires travaillent ensemble. Et je vais mettre l'emphase sur le besoin d'avoir du leadership responsable dans ces moments-ci, que nous devons de se préoccuper de la santé des Canadiens, de la santé de notre démocratie, et je vais être en train de mettre l'emphase là-dessus. I look forward to speaking with Interim Leader Candice Bergen shortly to congratulate her for her new responsibilities, but to highlight how important it is that all parliamentarians work together, that all parties work together to deliver for Canadians, to help Canadians get through this pandemic. That means working on supporting the public health advice and measures put in place. It's a time for responsible leadership. And I certainly hope that the Conservative Party, under its current direction, will put that responsibility first and foremost in the choice it makes and in how it encourages all Canadians to get through this pandemic safely by being there for each other and not disrespecting or harassing one another.
Thank you. That concludes the portion of the press conference with the Prime Minister and Premier Stefanson. Ministers will remain on the line for an additional 10 minutes, starting with 5 minutes in the room and 5 minutes on Zoom. Cela conclut la première partie de la conférence de presse avec le Premier ministre et la Première ministre Stefanson. Les ministres resteront encore pour 10 minutes, en commençant par 5 minutes dans la salle. I will turn it over to the room for 5 minutes with the ministers.
Minister Ewasko, I know you may say that there's an announcement to come, but the fact that provincial funding for childcare centres, those grants have not increased since 2016, is that concerning to you?
So thanks for that question. Is it concerning? The fees and the funding and that's why, I might even turn it over to Miss Kale right away. Moving forward, I mean, as you know, when we took power in 2016, we were looking at a $980 million debt at that time, and so we worked hard to try to bring that back to balance under Premier Pallister, and so now moving forward, again, listening to the sector, working with them quite closely. I think with the new move that Premier Stefanson did on creating the new Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning, I think brings great synergies to the sector and also to the department. And I think both of them complement one another. And I think moving forward, making sure that our daycare spaces are affordable, we've got high quality. We're gonna improve on already what's there, the high quality services that our early childhood educators are providing our children in the daycare system, and then we'll also be working on that workforce and taking a look at those different wages as well, Ian. So I'm encouraged, and I think the sector's encouraged in the partnership and the working together and moving forward for a more again affordable, sustainable, and quality childcare system right here in Manitoba.
Can you, Minister, just talk about why the quality is important? You're the minister now who's in charge of this portfolio and education, and you were advanced education. So can you just talk about what it's going to mean for the young family we see for their kids now? Where do you see them in 12 years or grade 12 as a result of this? Like, is there any expectation?
That's a great question, and it's almost like we work together on that question, because I think, again, as I was saying, the synergy between early childhood education and learning with the education department. I mean, we all know that the K-12 system is there, and we're working on, again, working closely with our stakeholders, our education partners. And I think now with the sector of early childhood learning within the department, I think those those collaborations and discussions are going to be able to happen more quickly and more readily available. We've heard for years. I mean, before I became an MLA, I was a guidance counselor and a teacher, for 17 years. Heard many times when I would go to post-secondary information days for guidance counselors and that on the quality or the various types of education that our kids are getting at the students are getting at K to 12. And so I think that synergy with the conversations happening within government, the collaboration with the various presidents and the education leaders within the province, I think are paramount. And at the end of the day, the goal is to have high quality education moving forward here in Manitoba and making sure that we're ready post-pandemic. So back, Carol, you mentioned when I was Advanced Education, Skills and Immigration Minister, we launched the Skills, Talent and Knowledge Strategy back February of 2021. I think, moving forward, that's not just a whole of government approach. That's an absolutely whole of Manitoba approach, north, east, south, and west, where we have to make sure that we've got highly trained individuals, and we're going to work hard right here in Manitoba to train and retain our students and anyone else who's looking for some form of education, whether that's early learning, whether that's K to 12, or whether that's post-secondary education. So I'm actually, as you can tell, I think more than thrilled with the appointment of this department and bringing in early childhood learning as well.
One more question.
For Jody Kell, just curious if you could share some of your thoughts and feelings on the announcement today from your perspective.
Is that okay, Minister Gould?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for that question. I mean, clearly today's announcement is prioritizing affordability for families like Andrea and Jonathan's. And so that's going to make childcare far more affordable for many Manitoba families. And that's really welcome news. But we've heard today that affordability, although it's a critical part of system building, it's one component of system building. And we know that system building of a high quality early learning and childcare system is multidimensional. And so I'm encouraged today to hear from both the Government of Canada and from Manitoba that early learning and childcare workforce prioritized. Early childhood educators and home-based providers are the foundation to which our system exists. And so when we talk about high quality childcare, at the heart of high quality childcare is educated and well remunerated early childhood educators. And so the centerpiece of our plan and of the Canada-wide plan has to encompass a workforce strategy. It will not be transformative without that strategy. And so MCC is anxious to hear and it's excited to hear about upcoming and much needed investments into the existing workforce so that they can continue to do the wonderful, important work that they have done throughout the pandemic that they've been doing for hundreds of years in Manitoba and in our country. And we've continued to say for the last 24 months that thanks to childcare, Manitoba works.
That's all the time. So we'll go to Zoom.
Minister
Gould,
would like to say
sorry.
something.
Sorry, can I come in?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. So just building on Jody's comments and Minister Ewasko's comments, as she mentioned, I think very well, is that the Canada-wide early learning and childcare initiative is based on a number of principles. Affordability is important, accessibility, quality, and inclusivity. And all of those four components need to be part of this in order for it to be the success that we want it to be. And what does that mean? It means that not only do we need to lower the fees, which today is a wonderful step in that direction, but it means we also have to increase spaces. Well, we can't increase spaces if we don't have qualified ECEs and providers to do that. And we need to ensure that there is high quality. And again, that means training and retaining those ECEs, and we want to ensure that it's inclusive, which means that whether it's in the official language of the individual who requires that childcare, whether it's with regards to Indigenous children, that it is available to them. And so this is one step along that path. It's a really important one. And we heard today the meaningful difference it's going to make for Andrea and Jonathan and their 2 kids in terms of their ability to put their kids in childcare, and for Andrea's ability to get back into the workforce. Those are really important parts of this, but it's one part of the overall plan. And it's why early learning is part of the title, because we do see this as a continuation of setting our kids up for success.
We'll turn it to Zoom.
Thank you very much. We now go to the Brandon Sun and Colin Slark.
Good morning. My first question is for Minister Ewasko. Last year, the province's childcare wait list was decommissioned. I was wondering what the plan is to keep track of what families are going to be having positions made available to them with today's announcement.
Thanks, Colin, for that question. So as you've already heard, and I appreciate Minister Gould and Jody Kale for putting a few words on the record here as well, and I look forward to continuing to work with both of them as we move forward with this great FedProv announcement today. As you've heard, we're talking about affordability, we're talking about quality, and we're talking, of course, workforce. So right now we've got about 38,000 spaces. With today's announcement, we're looking at almost 50% of those children will be subsidized. So we're looking at that $10 a day average coming into full force, and maybe even sooner, by the end of March 2023. So we are looking at exactly how Minister Gould said. You can lower and make childcare even more affordable than Manitoba was already producing. But with that, you do have to look at childcare spaces, and we have committed to increasing our childcare spaces right here in the province. And again, with that, you need to train and retain. So we need to encourage individuals to get into the profession of early childhood education. And we're going to be doing that, working with the sector on different strategies on how we encourage. We get to those schools and we get to, talk to the public about getting them interested into this. And part of that is going to be that wage scale in that. But we're going to wait for a little bit till that good news comes out, and with that we'll continue on our journey. And as Minister Gould said and Jody Kale said, this is the first step of a few more to come.
Thank you. My follow-up question is for Minister Gould. This morning, the Parliamentary Budget Office released a report on the projected costs of the Federal National Childcare Plan, but it also stated that it was not able to fully determine the cost for all elements of the plan due to a lack of available policy details. What does your government estimate will be the complete cost of this national program?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brendan. And first of all, I want to thank the PBO for doing this important work. We're at the beginning of the journey on this. We are building a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. We have some great data from the province of Quebec that we can use to estimate and see where we're going, and that's quite frankly, what we based the Canada-wide initiative on. And so we know that with this about $30 billion program over the next 5 years, that we can achieve our objectives when it comes to affordability, when it comes to accessibility, inclusivity, and quality. And so in Manitoba, we're talking about $1.2 billion over the next 5 years. That means we're going to make childcare more affordable, get to that average $10 a day. Manitoba's tracking towards that by March 2023. We're going to increase the number of spaces. We're going to be able to train ECEs and bring forward a wage grid to retain them and provide additional supports. And we're going to keep working on quality, because when we talk about early learning and childcare, we're not just talking about babysitting. We're talking about actual early childhood development as well. So, parents want to know that their kid is safe, they're being well looked after, but they're also building those blocks that they need to have a strong foundation as they grow. So, we have this fantastic agreement with Manitoba. We've got agreements with 12 provinces and territories, and we look forward to finalizing that last agreement as well.
From CTV Winnipeg, Jeff.
Oh, hello. Following up on that last answer, I understand what you're saying, that you're going to be looking at adding spaces and the wages to attract and retain staff. But as of today, childcare could be free. If a parent can't find childcare for their parent today, then it doesn't matter. So what's the timeline? What's the plan? Because we've had long wait lists for years and years and years and years, and parents are frustrated. So what is the plan? What's the timeline across the country in Manitoba to open up more spaces so a parent can send their child in their neighborhood to daycare?
Absolutely. Let me take a first stab at that one. So, as I think is really important, I mean, we signed this agreement with Manitoba 6 months ago. So it's pretty impressive, I think, that they've made such great progress in terms of affordability within 6 months. That is a great thing, and it's going to help 12,000 children, additional children in Manitoba as of Monday, who will be able to apply for this subsidy. So that's a really good step in terms of affordability. But our plan is over 5 years. And so there are milestones along the way in terms of when we want to see provinces and territories, including Manitoba, meet those objectives. So the first one that we committed to, and we've asked provinces and territories to commit to, is a 50% reduction in fees by the end of this calendar year. Manitoba is well on their way to achieving that. The second one is to see a fee reduction by an average of $10 a day by 25-26. Manitoba has committed to doing that by March of 2023, so within the next year. And of course, as was mentioned, Manitoba already has lower fees than many other jurisdictions in Canada, so they're further ahead. But where we need to continue to do that work is on supporting workforce. And, I'm committed to working with Minister Ewasko and his government on doing that. So supporting workforce, the wage grid that will be announced, support and training and professional development for ECEs. We need to do further work on quality and inclusivity. And these are all things that take a bit of time, because you have to train more ECEs before you can open additional spaces. And so we've committed to, over the next 5 years, different benchmarks and milestones as to when additional spaces need to be reached. But the objective is to get to a 59% coverage rate within 5 years. So that is the objective. And I hear you. And I think we heard very clearly from Andrea and Jonathan that it's very challenging and stressful to find a daycare space, especially when you have to return to work. And add on to that, that if you have 2 kids of the same age and not just one, I went through that with my son. And most places that I spoke to, and I think, Jonathan said it very well, they had 1 spot, but they might not have 2. So I think we all understand how important building and opening new spaces is, and that is one of the objectives and priorities with the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system that we are building with the province of Manitoba.
And our final question this morning does go to Jeff. Please proceed.
Oh, hi. Is Minister Vandal still part of this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Just could you update us on the provinces and the cities application for the infrastructure funding for the North End Water Pollution Control Center. Is the federal government looking favorable on that?
We are looking very favorable on that issue. As you know, the environment and climate change is a pillar of our platform across all ministries. We know this is something that's been in the works for a long time. In fact, I was Public Works Chair back in 2011 or 10, I think, and submitted the application. I would need to get back to you, Jeff, on where everything is right now, but we are going to do all things necessary to expedite this and make sure we announce the next phase as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Minister, and thanks to everyone. This concludes our news conference.
Thank you. I don't know.